Thank you so much for tuning in to this new episode of Footprints. Footprints is an ongoing series where we invite an artist to talk about their workflow, technical assets as mixing, sequencing, arrangement, synthesis, plugins, and more. And at the end of every episode, the artist will provide you with a full sample pack that is downloadable on the website. If you are watching right now on our Facebook stream, I highly recommend you to go to the operator website. On there, you can also ask us questions. The quality of the stream is better, so if you're watching from Facebook right now, do switch to the operator website. So today here, I have with me Dagger DX. Dagger DX is a DJ and producer, has shared the stage with the likes of Gaslamp Killer, James Zoo, Flacco, Machine Drum, and Rachel Green. Has produced a handful of tracks and released. The most well-known one is Triguna, which is released on Kutma's Sketchbook Archives compilation. Right now, Dagger DX, as well known as Atu, is producing his debut album right now, and so stay tuned for that one. And again, if you have any questions, ask them online, and we will have a moment for that to answer those. So, Atu, can you tell us what is going to happen today and what you will be explaining to us?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you, Lynn and Operator Radio for having me. I'm going to play one of my tracks that's set for the album. And while playing, I will draw an energy line, and I will explain later. Mm-hmm. And after that, I will do everything in sections, and I will discuss the choices I make according to sound, instruments, mixing, and arrangement. I think it's going to be a long ride, but I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, it will be a very cool one, and we look forward to it. So
if you have any questions, then you're welcome to ask.
Yes. Okay. All right.
Yes.
Let's begin.
Okay. Cool.
All right.
Thanks. All right. So my name is Dagger DX. I work on Logic. And mostly I do everything digital. I do have some analog gear at home, but I'm not really used to using them yet. For this project, I only use everything in Logic. This is one track, but it consists of 3 parts. But I will play the whole track for you. Kind of exclusive, and like I told you earlier, I will draw an energy line. So this first part is called Xenogamy, and that's like I'm telling a story with it, but I will come back on that later. Here it goes. Part 2. Part 3.
Dahana itu behana. Paiwan boy no makan buku di bagu cuman. Hima mana boy he beno makan. Ini no makan. Nó cái mà phải cái mà vậy cái cửa mà Muhammad cái Muhammad cái đó Muhammad betul dia kita cái mở cửa lắm.
Yes, so this is the whole song. So what I told you earlier, it's divided in 3 sections. First section is xenogamy. The meaning of xenogamy is like a cross-pollination between 2 species of plants. Story I'm telling here is it's about my background. I have a Javanese and Moluccan background. I was born here in the Netherlands, and that being a process of discovery and evolving brought me to some questions about myself and about my place here in this society. But yeah, well, anyways, we're talking about music here. So I will go back to my Logic file. Yeah, how did I start with it? At first I started this just with an idea of making a track with kind of like 60s psychedelic rock elements in it. And I was thinking of more like Indonesian style kind of stuff. You can hear that in a few elements. But I will start with this. I began everything with MIDI. I play the guitar and the bass and all with MIDI. And later I decided to have two of my friends record some live instruments, the bass and the guitar. Let's see. So at first this was my sketch. Still in it, but I thought I already had that idea, and then I went to this. I kept the drums, and here are the drums. I will solo them. The drums, I wanted to program the drums like I've been playing them live. And I tried to imagine myself playing behind a drum set. So with only two hands and 2 feet. So I tried to program it like this. You cannot play 3 sounds with 2 hands. So I tried to really imagine how it would be if I would play it live. And I kept it that way. And this is, by the way, this is just stock sound from Logic. And they have amazing drum kits, by the way. But I felt the kick was a little bit, could have more punch. And that's why I doubled the kick with another kick. It's from the Ultra Beat sampler. This is a standard kick. Is it here? No. But yeah, so the drums are pretty much like I imagined it before. And then last year, a friend of mine, he's from Morocco, he plays guitar, and I asked him if he wanted to play the guitar parts. So we recorded everything here. And I asked him if he could play along, even though it was more like a loop, but play along the whole song, because that's how you how you keep the human element in it, even with the little slips and the offbeat things, and all the little sounds that might sound faulty. I think it has its charm to leave them in. So it sounded like, oops. Well, it's pretty full with all the different parts of the guitar. That's why I decided to do a little mix already. Well, mix. It's a matter of panning actually, just to make some space for all the different sounds. Otherwise, it will be clogging up in my ears while producing. I know some producers do the mixing afterwards, after the composing and arrangement. And this one still needs mixing after this, but during the whole process of the producing, I prefer to mix it already a little bit. That's why some parts are pretty panned hard to the left, some to the right, and some a little bit in the middle. Just to make some space for the bass, because the bass, I like to have the bass in the middle with a little bit of a stereo image, maybe, or maybe sometimes. But here's the bass, and I kept it pretty much in the middle. Yeah. So another friend of mine, Jael, he has his album out, by the way. It's pretty dope, so check it out. Jael, he played the bass on this one, and just like with the friend with Ahmed, who played the guitar, I asked him just to play along with the song, and yeah, leave enough room and freedom to fill in all the things musically with his own inspiration and things. So this is the bass. Psych. And he came up with nice little things. And he, as a producer himself, he has some dope tricks. Like this. It's like a delay, echo, reverb effect. And I decided to pan it hard on the left because here you still have a short bass part, and otherwise it would be interfering with each other. So that's how I made space for this part, just to pan it to the left. And most of the times I just draw things in automation. Sometimes I use the MIDI controller and I turn the knobs, and that's more organic and more like the human touch. But for me, while sketching this, it was faster to just write the automation down. So. Those were the bass parts. Let's see. Well, it was a short intro for the song. And then there's the melody. And the melody, what I use for that one is a mellotron. Well, not a real mellotron, but it's a plugin, a Logic plugin, and I feel it sounds really nice. Now, the mellotron originally is an instrument from the 60s, and it has a tape in it, and that tape, there's a sample on that, and when you press the key, then the tape will play a sample, basically. But the thing is, with the whole mechanic behind the tape, there's always that flutter, that wobble in it, and it's not a high definition sound, but altogether, it really gets you back to the 60s and 70s also, the time when a lot of musicians used the mellotron. And also, the scale I used for the melody is another scale than we are used to here in Western music. And this one is based on a scale that is used in Indonesia, mostly in music from Java and Bali. This scale only has 7 tones in it. It's called the Pelok scale. 7 tones, mostly they only use 5, by the way. But in contrary to all the tones and semitones we have here on this keyboard in Western music, they only have these sounds. So based on that scale, I came up with the melody from the flutes in the mellotron. Sounds like this. And when I play this, it really transported me back in Indonesia and even back in time. So the combination of all these previous elements I discussed is like a vessel, and you can change location and time with that. And you know, time is a new space, so. Let's see. Yeah, well, this is the first section of this part. Going back to the story, this is like it refers to that 60s psychedelic rock sound, and then it evolves in the next part, and there I use the synth bass, and I leave the real bass guitar. I leave it all out. The synth is this one. And it almost sounds like a gong from the traditional Javanese and Balinese gamelan ensemble. And I approached it that way as well. But yeah, so I made this section to have a contrast with the first part, section. Sorry. I totally mix it up all the time. But yeah, the whole synth part adds a little bit more energy to it. That's why I draw this energy line. So this is the intro, this is the first section, and this is the next section. And they're like competing with each other. So after this part, it goes back to the first. But if you kind of like repeat a part, for me it's interesting when you add a few more layers to it, like the violin. Mellotron sound, by the way. again, the next section. We're here now. Energy-wise, it's becoming a little bit darker. Okay, so this section. We just came out of that one with the melody from the flutes and the violin. Thanks. Let's see. Oh yeah. So these are the new voices in this whole story. And in the next part, they play like a bigger role. But for now, they're like creeping up from the distance or from the shadows. Here also I use the same Pollock scale, and all together it gives me that feeling as if it was a gamelan ensemble as well. The sounds I used for these were from a reactor, and then the Monarch plugin. To be honest, I think I had a preset. No, I didn't have a preset. I adjusted some things, and I use the retro synth for the one with the arpeggio. This is a Logic stock VST also. What did I do? What did I do? I don't think I didn't do very exciting things with these, but the beauty of it is when it sounds well, when it sounds all together, then I think it's pretty dope. What you can do with stock sounds, with maybe some little adjustments. Thing is, you can make your sounds, your own sounds. You can sample, and it's all good. I mean, in other tracks I do that as well. But for these, I use a lot of presets. But the trick is, I think the trick is to make space, enough space for every part to be told and every voice to be there where it's supposed to be. I'm not an audio engineer, so I'm not really a mixing pro. But because my music is pretty full packed with different tracks or high energy sounds, I have to mix it during the process of making this. Let's see, what's the next? Oh yeah, and on the background I added some effects just to add some brilliance, because a lot of my stuff is in the low end, and if I don't take care of the low end, then it tends to be sounding very muddy. But if that's fixed, then there's some balance I need to have in the high end, and that's by using the effects. Logic sounds also. You know. Let's see. Okay, so we're now going to the towards the end of this section. I end this with it has an open end, like you haven't arrived home yet, and it has some mystery to it. And for me, it was the perfect opening or the perfect transition to the next part. And this. Whoa. Hold up. It ends like this. So yeah, this was the first part. I think I'm going to the next one. I have some elements here that return in the next part, and the emphasis is more on that, on those sounds. I made another working file for this because I mixed it differently. So I have to close this one. I'll minimize. Is it? Beach ball. Always spannend. So yeah, now we're here. There has been an intro, a little build-up, variation between the two sections, another build-up, some other variations with some extra layers to it, and then we are here now. So, oh, that's here. Perfect. So yeah, this is the part where in the story and the whole message I'm telling about, this is the part where like I raise my questions up to like a higher power, and that's why it's called the prayer. So the whole process of searching your and determining my place within society with all the different cultural backgrounds I have results in this part. So I did the drums on purpose very minimal, in contrary to the first part. That's to have more emphasis on being like dead center in my face, in your face, you know? So it's very minimal. These are the only sounds I use. Only a kick, a snare, and like a rim shot, but very, very short. I will open this here. So what I did was with the kick, I quantized the kick. There pretty on grid throughout the whole this whole part. But what I did with the snare and the rim shot is I played them on the keys, but I didn't quantize them. And also here also just to keep the human touch. And the funny thing is, the snare is just before the beat, and the rim shot is just after that one. For me, it creates the tension, the pushing and pulling, and that's what I like. Yeah, it's a matter of taste, of course, but you know, if it's all on the grid, and some musical genres need that, having things on grid and need quantizing. But for me, the whole tension was important in this part, and that's why I did it with the drums as well. So the sounds I use are, again, the Ultra Beat from Logic. Amazing, just yeah. You know, sometimes when you open up like a stock sound from Logic or a stock VST, then it sounds a little bit boring maybe, but I think you can, if you're open to it, you can shape all the sounds that are already in it just the way you want. And also, if it adds up to your story, what you want to tell with the song, then for me it's no problem that you use stock sounds. Yeah, so this is the whole switch up. From pretty live and well drums in the first part to this very simple minimal drum pattern, and from the live bass guitar it's going to the Monarch, and that's a synth bass as well, and that one has the voice now. So, I divided the bass in two layers. One is my sub layer, and that one's pretty in the middle. It's competing with the kick drum. The kick is also in the middle, but what I did was I did some sidechain compression. So that's a compressor. It's routed to a compressor on the synth is routed to the kick drum, and what it does, it fattens up the sound, but also with the side chaining, if you have the bass sound here, and this is the kick, then it ducks down. Like this. So you get the impression that the kick is super loud, but basically it's just kick, and you lower the bass. So that leaves enough space to be for the kick to be there, because the whole synth bass is, yeah, those are long notes, so that would be very annoying if they compete with each other within the same low frequency. So, and another layer on top of the sub bass is basically the same plugin again, but now, whoa. That It's more in a mid and high to give the sub more character. And what I did here was create a slight stereo image. So the sub bass is like here in the middle, and the other layer is a little bit on top of it, like in the higher frequency, and a little bit away from the middle. So basically the sounds looks like this. I don't know if it makes sense. Dollars and cents, something like that. What I did for the stereo image is a little what did I do? Oh yeah, like a sample delay. If you do a sample delay, then basically you do you make a left and a right version of the sound, and on one it gets a little bit delay, and that makes the sound left and right differently. So that's why your ears hear like it's out there instead of the same sound, like it's a mono sound in the middle. So yeah. So this melody is coming back, referring to the first part, and now it's having a conversation with okay. So this sound is like a flute sound. Again, it's from a reactor, but now with a lot of noise that I've turned on, and the noise is making it more airy, like it's a real flute. Obviously, it's not a real flute because it's a synthesizer sound, but together with the next part, and that's a flute sample, it has that. I feel it has that nice conversation, that dialogue. So this is a sound without the noise. With the noise. Sounds a little bit dirty, but yeah, it needed. I felt it needed that. Also, in contrast with this sample, which is a sample of a real flute. I was looking into Sundanese suling music. It's traditional music from Western Java. And one of the typical things are the suling, the flute parts. And this is this. The funny thing about this is when I found the sample, I just imported it in this session, and I didn't need to adjust anything except for maybe some stereo image and the EQ, but I didn't do anything about the pitch. I think I see a pitch shift here, but I don't think it's on. No, so the pitch is untouched, and I didn't do anything about the timing. So I guess it's like a little gift, a little magical gift from the universe or something. So it came out of the box like this, and I just like scroll through the whole sample. And it's just a matter of, finding that exact piece that feels good. And I don't know in what BPM it is or whatever. It's I think the whole free part, not being quantized or not being time stretched according to the rest of the session, is the magical part. So yeah. Yeah, so here I did some cutting, but also I didn't do that much. So it's pretty much the original how it came out of the box. Yeah, so this is the flute sample, and this is having that conversation with the synthesized flute. And again, these gamelan sounds from earlier. We're kind of like building up because of the chords I play along with the bass line. What's happening here is that I are doing my prayer and I raise my questions to the higher power. So it literally needs to be lifted up. That's why I played these chords in an upward, like with an upward melody. So yeah. The chords, they are made up out of 6 layers. In this session, I have 3 MIDI layers of the same sound, and 3 audio layers I bounced in another project. But here also, just like the guitar parts in the beginning, it's a matter of panning and making space for each other. What I use for the chords is again one of the sounds in the retro synth. Oh yeah. And I made there's a difference between this channel and this one. And that results in a stereo image as well, because even though it's the same, pretty much the same. You see, this is for the left channel and the right channel, the same programming. But because of the sound being different, it still results in that stereo image. And I wanted the chords to be wide on top of the bass, because the bass is the sub is in the middle, the mid and high frequencies of bass are panned left and right. So there's that stereo image again, and on top of that I made these chords. To make it more dynamic, I added these. Played with a Juno synthesizer. And also this one. Oh. Oh yeah, and I did the automation as well here to give it more drama or something. Yeah, so I believe I used a Juno as well for this one. But it's slightly detuned, so playing it all together with the other sounds, the result of the detuning is, I think, I don't know the theory behind it, you know, but I believe I hear it, let's put it that way. The detuning results in some kind of pulse, like a natural pulse without adjusting anything but the pitch. And I thought it sounded nice to make it more dynamic. The chords that I played here are those uplifting chords, like you reach out, and kind of like the climax is here then. So yeah, like after reaching out, you fall back on the ground, then you're here again, you know. So it's back to the basics in life, basically, but also the basics of this part, you know, the drum, where I started with the drums, the bass, very simple, and you're back again. Oh yeah, and there's another conversation within this part. That's this one. It's the flute sample. I pitched it down an octave. And that dialogue between these two sounds felt like, for me, it felt like it was breathing. Like when you're back on the ground and you know you're overwhelmed by these chords and you know this whole spiritual reach out, and you're back on the ground and you are able to breathe again. So altogether, it's the kick, the drums, the bass, and breathing, but in the form of the synthesizers and the flute. Now we're at the end of this section. And you know, these are what, like 5 minutes of energy-wise, pretty high energy, dense sounds. So the third part, for me, I wanted to make the third part more breathable. Like you have to come to your rest after this. But yeah. So far, these two parts.
Yeah, Toes, thank you so much for up until now. I really enjoy always like hearing people's thoughts and how they work and what goes into everything when you're producing a track.
Yeah.
So it's always really cool to hear. So thank you for that. And thank you for giving us the premiere for the breakdown of the track that will be released on your forthcoming album. That will be released soon. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. It will be released. I don't know if it's soon, because there's not a date yet.
Yeah.
But we're working on it. The plans are to release it on Iswood Records, the same record label, Kutma's record label, by the way.
That's awesome.
That released one of my tracks on that compilation. So we've been talking back and forth about ideas, and you know, the album is basically the work of, I don't know, maybe 5 years, because I never had my own release before, so this is going to be my debut. Some tracks are made, or sketches of them are made in 2016, and you know, sometimes you don't feel like it fits on an EP, or and 5 years later, when you're thinking about the story of your album, you know, what you want to tell, suddenly it fits. Like even if it's an old song, and maybe I did some parts, I replayed some parts and all that, but yeah.
But you feel that the tracks that you produced before fit the narrative that you have created for this album right now, and that they fit the story that you would like to tell with this album.
Yeah. Well, one of the tracks is like 5 years old, and it's a totally different sounding track if you compare it to the other ones. But yeah, it all adds up to that story, you know. And
would you like to share this story already or not?
No, of course not. It's a secret.
Okay, we'll just have to wait on that one.
No, it's basically it's about transition, you know, and the story I'm telling you about within this song. Yeah, it's a good summary of it all. So it's about identity, my cultural background, how to channel or translate my cultural background musically. Yeah.
Because you're of Moluccan heritage, right? How do you feel that this identity actually inspires your work and your music?
Yeah. Well, I think it. Yeah, well, it inspires me for the most part in the percussion, in the drums.
Yeah.
One of the more known instruments on the Moluccas is the tifa. That's a hand drum, and you know it's about rhythms, contra rhythms, you know, and that's, for me, it feels, when I hear the tifa, it feels like it's, you know, piercing through your guts.
Yeah, I can totally see what you mean.
Right?
Yeah,
right.
definitely.
Yeah. So, I don't know how to describe my music and what kind of genre this is. Some of the people call it like bass music, or some of the people call it beats. But Yeah, I don't know. It's a combination of all of that and traditional styles as well.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about this last week, and I thought, yeah, maybe it's just I just call it like guts music because I wanted to, you know, hit people in the guts with it, whether it's with the rhythm section or with.
Yes, and you followed your
use.
guts to make it. So.
Yeah.
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 Because so I also heard like gamelan samples that you've used in your tracks, but you also mentioned that you used the scale, the pellet scale, for example. They were also like influenced by your heritage. So yeah, I could definitely tell, I guess, indeed. One of the questions of the audience is, where did you get the gamelan sample from?
Which one?
I think
I used
the
all
one.
that. No.
I think the one that you played in the beginning. I think they meant that one. When you used to show people the skill, what kind of skill you were using.
Oh yeah, that sample.
I think that's what they meant.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm going to. Oh no, I don't have it in this session. Yeah, there was like the example of the Pollock skill, right?
Yes, exactly.
That sample's from Wikipedia.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
So they sometimes they have like audio files and sometimes
exactly.
MIDI files. So I was like, where can I find a good example? And yeah, it's
Oh, you just download, like you saved it from the Wikipedia page. Ah, okay, cool. That's interesting.
Totally royalty free.
So where do you usually do you have like a certain website that you go to search for your samples, for example, or you just get them everywhere and you just search around on the internet and you just, or is there a go-to place for you?
No, not really. Not really a go-to place. Sometimes it's just crate digging.
Yeah.
The traditional crate digging, but also the digital crate digging. You know, there's a lot of stuff online, and there are a lot of compilations of field recordings as well, and those are the most interesting because it's not really high definition audio quality, but you know, that's that grittiness, and sometimes there are recordings of like half a century old, and
That's sweet.
that's
really cool.
When I find those ones, I'm getting really excited. But to be honest, I don't really use that much sample-wise. So yeah.
Cool. So let's go a little bit back to when you started making music. Like how long was that ago?
High school.
High school.
Yeah, I think it's. I'm going to talk really old now. Now I think it's like 20 years ago.
20 years already.
Yeah,
wow, that's a long time.
Yeah.
So how did you start producing? So.
Oh, maybe even longer, by the way. Let's say 25 years ago.
Whoa.
But how did I start producing?
Yeah.
I started so I played the guitar, classical guitar.
Ah, okay, yeah.
I went to music school for that. And that was in during primary school. But during high school, I was listening to a lot of jungle breakbeat, and gabber music.
Oh.
And through the whole hardcore scene in the gabber music, I discovered how you can make music with a fast tracker, a scream tracker, all those. I don't know how you call it again. Those kind of music programs.
You mean one of the first ones that you used to produce music?
Yeah, like fast tracker. There's a certain name for that. I cannot recall. But so I started making like gabber music, and it was really really funny how it worked. And it's not simple. But yeah, I kept on making music, until now. It's for me it's an outlet. It's a way of expression. But I didn't really have the ambition earlier to release something. Until now. So, yeah.
Cool. So let's see. So you started like with a different program when you were younger, and now you switched to Logic. Is there a reason why you prefer Logic over the other ones, or have you tried other DAWs before you ended up with Logic, or was this the first one that you got and you stuck with it?
Yeah, I stuck with it. Yeah. So after the Scream Tracker and the Fast Tracker, oh, and Mod Tracker, by the way, I started using Logic during high school. And yeah, I stuck with it. Yeah, I've tried Ableton, and I think it's so dope. You know, you can do so many things with it. But yeah, well, but it takes time for me to learn.
Yeah, of course, there's a learning curve to every
Yeah,
software,
yeah.
I suppose. Yeah.
And yeah, maybe I stuck with Logic because every little idea I have, I know how to play and how to do it within Logic. So yeah.
Yeah. So you just felt that this was the best fit for you.
I got used to it. Yeah, and I would love to learn more about Ableton, for instance. But for now, it's Logic. Yeah.
So I have a few questions from the audience, like still left for you. One of them was so the effects that you have on the guitar parts that your friend played. Are they made with pedals, or did you add them on later after you recorded the initial audio?
No, he did it all with pedals.
Ah, okay. So you already added like the effect pedals, and that's how you got the file.
Okay. Yeah, that's the original sound that I recorded, and yeah, so no after things.
So, for example, if you were to use like stock sounds, like you mentioned before, would you have some tips for the people in the audience, for example, to go from a stock sound? What kind of effects do you use to make it like ready for a track that you're making? Are there a few ones that are your favorites, for example?
Like the stock sounds?
Yeah, for the stock sounds or the effects that you add to it in order to make it ready for your track.
Yeah. I use a lot of the retro synth. I use a lot of the classical electric piano. You know, it's all in Logic. I think what's important is does it tell your story? Does it you know does it have that voice? And it's about the essence of that sound. To bring it out, yeah, it needs a lot of shaping, obviously. What I use is, the compressors. Most of the times Logic, and also from Waves. To shape the sound, you know, it can be a very boring kick as a stock sound, but you know, by shaping it that way, it can play that part in what you want to achieve.
Yeah, definitely. So basically, if I describe it correctly, you use a stock sound and you add the effects to it, and you just search for the sound that is correct to how you feel that it should be, and then you just keep on tuning until you find the.
Yeah, basically, yeah. I spent a lot of time. I spent a lot of time, you know, shaping that sound, and maybe there's another sound that, you know, is spot on already.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
you prefer to shape it yourself.
I prefer to shape it myself. Yeah, that's why I'm so slow with producing. It's ridiculous, but yeah.
It takes time, but it builds quality, so it's okay.
I hope so. Yeah.
So I have one last question from the audience. So the first part sounded very traditional, while the second sounded way more modern. Is there a reason why you chose to do it this way? Yeah,
the first part, like I told in the very beginning, was like, okay, I wanted to make a track. I wanted to check out if I could make a track that sounded like that. Yeah. Just like for an experiment. But suddenly it told me something, and that's why I made that whole story around it. So from the traditional part, it evolved in the more contemporary modern sound, like in the second part. But still, with some traditional scales or traditional rhythms, or those elements. And I think that, yeah, well, it's life. A lot of things are traditional, but sometimes you have to take the essence of the traditional values and just move on, with or without them. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's the whole process. It's a personal process, yeah, but also within this track.
Yeah, exactly. So in the beginning, you have these traditional sounds that you also that they come back in the second part as well. So it's a bit, yeah, okay. All right. So what will we hear next from you? You will be going for the third part of the first track, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we still have time?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Or you also had another track that you wanted to do, or?
I have another track, yeah. But this part is not so long. Okay. I can explain some of the parts of it, and if there's still time and still some energy left on this hot summer night, I can do another track. It's yeah. Well. And,
all right.
Cool.
I'll let you to it, and yeah, if you have any questions, I will be handling a little bit of the questions together with Atu at the end of the session before we close off. So please feel free to ask them, and Atu will show you the rest now.
All right. Thanks, Lynn.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you, by the way, for staying with us. So, yeah, oh yeah. So the last part of what we discussed was that, after that climax of raising your questions to the higher power, you're back on the ground, back on your feet, and back to basics. So the drums are simple, the bass is simple again, the flute and the synth are breathing. And then it's time to rest, and that's the following part. And I did a little bit of sound design there, just to move you to another location, to another ambience. And that's this. So we have that. We just had that very energy dense part, and now we're going somewhere else. Here is a few layers of sounds from a campfire and some night animals and crickets. The thing that keeps going on is that flute sound, in the same tempo as before, but now it's really in the distance, like you snapped out of it, and somewhere in the forest there's still that flute sound. And also what keeps you in tempo, in motion, is the tick. And basically those two elements form the whole rhythm of this section. The tick is very muffled away, just to be present enough to keep you in tempo. And the flute sound is very far. Well, at least I try to achieve that effect by putting a reverb on it. This is the wet signal, like the output of the effect, and the dry signal is the output of the original sound. If you put the dry output to 100%, then the whole sound would be very near. But now if you do the dry signal like lower than the wet signal, lower than the reverb effect, then you can achieve the impression that the sound is a lot more far away. These are 2 layers of ambient sounds, and I noticed that the cricket sound, even though it's the sample, in this loop it still has some kind of rhythm to it. I don't know if you hear it. Nah, too loud. It seems like there's a kind of a triplet rhythm to the cricket sound, and I decided to go along with that. So after a while the beat kicks in, and I play also some hi-hats, and those are also in triplet form. The same thing, what I did to the chords is the same thing as what I did to the flute. I wanted to give the impression that the chords come down on you from high above or from far away, and I think I did that. Yeah, I did it with the same effect with the reverb, but now I did it within Alchemy. This is a VST plugin, and I automated the reverb effect as well. The chords that I play here are the same chords like in the previous part, but now I put on a arpeggio effect, and that's in Alchemy as well. And it goes like this. So there are various ways to create the image that something is getting closer to you. And it's not only volume, just raising the volume, but also think about the space where it's coming from and where it's heading. And there are a lot of things to achieve that, but the only thing I used for this one is the dry and the wet signal, or in this case the mix between those two within the reverb effect. Now, I kept it really basic here. The only reference to the previous parts is that I play the same chords now. But I don't add any more layers like like effects or bass or anything. Just to make it as a very gentle outro from the rest of the track. What I used here is referring back to the story I'm telling with this is a sample from out of a movie. I won't tell which one, but it's in indigenous Amazonian native language, and it's a shaman. And if I believe the translation of what he's saying, then it's something like this. So maybe this message is like, I felt like it's one of the answers to the questions I had or have. So I thought this would be a good ending of this song. So yeah, 7 minutes in what, 1.5 hours. But yeah, this is one of the songs of the album. I will go on to the next one, if it's okay with you all. The beach ball again. Okay, so this next one doesn't have that much layers as the previous tracks. Pretty simple, I think. Yeah. Well, this is one of the songs I was talking about. This one, the original version, the first version I made, was in 2016, yeah, I can play it now. It doesn't have any beat or whatsoever. And it's called Thank You. Oh, thank you. Yeah, so this is maybe a more touchy, emotional track that I made. The way I started was with this. I chose to not program or use any beat, but still with these piano parts, I wanted to create some rhythm, and also with only one tone, and have all the other parts moving around it. So if you play these like solo, it's really exciting, maybe. Okay, so basically this is the rhythm section. What I did with the first piano was play with the reverbs. You can achieve this also with, bouncing a piano sample, reverse it, and then time all together. But this is just playing with two reverbs. One is the normal one, like the regular reverb, and the other one is a reversed reverb. So basically, it gives you the same effect. Gives you the same effect like I could have achieved with reversing the samples. But yeah, well, with these effects, you're more like versatile. You can play anything without bouncing and play with the samples, but just play the piano and then everything has that effect. Simple delays on the Rhodes. And this piano I just play. This is a short loop of four notes. Okay, so this is basically the rhythm section. The chords. I play the chords with, the E piano. Again, Logic sound. But also these are pretty much, these stay pretty much the same through the whole song. There's the same progression, by the way. So yeah, that's those are the chords. Now is okay. So this is the melody. Very simple, but what I did here was use an echo. And the trick here was to have the wet signal, so the effect output on 100%, and the dry signal, so the original timed sound on 32. So usually if you use an echo, it's the other way. It could be the other way around, and it would sound like this. But if you have it like this, then the emphasis is on the echo sound. So that's the one that pops out. And in this case, it's the it's like the feedback you get. And I thought it was a really nice effect for this one. The next part is for adding a little bit more brilliance to the melody. I had some plugs, and it's from the FM8, the famous FM8 VST. And those plugs follow the same melody as the Rhodes. So now we have the rhythm section, the chords, and the melody. And I think I added some, magic. Yeah, it's brilliance, basically. I see that I called it stars. Oh, how romantic! But yeah, I felt like I probably felt like it's like stars. But this is all in the high end, and it plays that part above the first. Wow. Next page. So I had the rhythm section. It's the rhythm section, the chords around it, the melody that pops out, and then here, it's like a like a mushroom. And here's that ambience, and I create that with these sounds. This is the location where it all takes place. Like, let's do it this way. This is an old work file, so I didn't give it any color, exciting things, or didn't really organize it. You can group them like this. You can select all of these, and then, you do the shift option D, and you can make a folder stack. How should I call it? Ambience. So now they're all here, and you can give this colors, by the way, but now you can solo or mute them all. So this is the ambience where it takes place. Yeah, somewhere else. Yeah, I did some automation here. Oh yeah. I see. I did a lot of panning with not the regular panning, but with this here. So you can select. Binaural pan, and basically binaural pan is like you can pan it in a 3D sphere. So it's more you can pan it to the front. You can adjust all the angles and the distance, and that's more like in a 3D ball, as opposed to the normal left and right panning. You barely even notice it if you have it like out of normal speakers. But if you have your headphones on, then it really shows you the space where it's moving within. But yeah, and of course there's a kind of like a bass part to it, and that sets the tone and the pace for the whole song. I use an acoustic guitar. I played guitar myself, but I think I was a little bit lazy to record my own guitar. So for this sketch, I used the acoustic guitar of Logic. Yeah. What I like about this one is that it has that human touch approach as well. So it's a little squirky sound that adds a little bit of the human touch to it. And especially in contrast to the other layers that are pretty quantized. For the dramatic effect, I used like a cello section. And that's being used in a lot of sounds for movies. You know, it gives that extra dramatic layer to it. Cello sound, there's of course the sub bass. Well, this is going to the second half of the song. For the most part, it's the same as the previous one, but I transposed it a few semitones to give it that switch, and also I switched the left and right channel of some of the other layers, just to make it switch within that space as well. But you barely even notice it. But it's all about tension and release in this track. For one part, for the repetitive sound, having that dialogue basically with the chords and the cellos beneath it. And eventually, if this part ends, it doesn't feel like you arrived at home yet. It's like an open ending still. So yeah. And now comes the closing. This end chord really feels like you arrived back home, where it's supposed to be. And I think this is going to be the last track of my album. What I end this track with is a sinus wave, and it like breathes towards the end of the song. I tuned it down to 432 hertz. Usually the A tuning, the tuning of the A sound is A tone is 440 in every DAW, but 432 433 is the frequency that resonates with our chakra. It's like the natural basic sound. And yeah. Oh yeah. One last funny thing before before I go home is this. Sometimes I load an imager just to check out where all the sound is going. And this is one funny present. I didn't mean to do that, but it's a bouncing heart. Amazing. But yeah, those are the magical moments. Yeah, this is it, I guess.
That was really, really nice. I felt that you closed off with something very, very personal, very intimate as well.
Yeah,
I feel like it would be a perfect ending to the album. Well, I don't know what the rest is going to be, but I really like it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me see. So, I would like to ask, what are your primary inspirations, like in general? I feel that this album that you're going to release is something very personal, like a personal story of transformation. But what are your primary inspirations in general for creating tracks? Is it mostly from yourself, from deep within, or are there other, or is it from other tracks that you hear, or can you elaborate a little bit more about your inspirations?
Yeah. One thing is nature. I like to just stare in the garden and or walk around in the forest or something. And, you know, just let things sink in, and that, yeah, creates a lot of ideas for me. Other music as well. DJing. I mean, sometimes I make a track, and I imagine while making that how it would sound, or what the effect would be, or the impact if it would be played on a festival by one of my my great examples. You know, like, yeah, that's something to think about, and it brings a lot of energy to it, and if you can channel that energy and translate it in what you are making, yeah, well then yeah, that's one of the inspirations as well. Of course, culture and everything that comes with it. What else? Yeah. Do you want to hear some artists or so, or?
Well, if you'd like to share, of course, but not necessarily.
Yeah. Well. No. Okay. No. Secret. No.
Yeah, if there's someone that you look up to, or for example, which inspires you a lot to producing music or the sound that you have right now, then feel free to share, of course.
Yeah, I don't think it's really about the sound or similar sound, but more like the approach of music and of sampling and all, and the human touch. Yeah, one of the greatest, Jay Dilla, is one of my great inspirations. I don't make the same kind of music, maybe, but you know, it's a way of it's his vision on music, and also that inspires me. Yeah, you know, shout out Gaslamp Killer, amazing artist, amazing DJ, performer, and producer. Yeah, Kutma as well. Yeah, well, it sounds. Yeah, well, you know, those guys are close to me, but musically, yeah, they inspire me a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there are also always like inspirations that might not really like on the foreground or that you can hear directly maybe into your music, but they inspire you in your way of being and the way that you approach things, right?
Yeah. Totally, yeah.
So to go back a little bit into like producing, so one of the questions we had before in the previous episode, which I think is also interesting to ask you. So would you have any tips for producers, for example, to go from a concept or a loop that you might have been listening over and over already to build it out into a full track? What is your approach to this? Or do you go from beginning and then you make the full beginning and then you go to the middle and then you go to the end? Or is it more that you work in a loop and then you build it out into a full track?
Yeah, loop. Just, you know, if you have the feeling that you have an amazing loop, whether it's a sample or whether it's a melody you come up with or a sick rhythm, you can make layers and layers and layers and layers. You know, just make like 30 layers. All the ideas you come up with. And then loop them, and then get tired, sleep, wake up again, listen back, and you're like, whoa, what did I make, man? So, and then, you know, peel it off, all the layers, all the things you don't like or you didn't hear, and then you have maybe like the perfect climax, like
On the other sheet.
Sheet. Then you have maybe this, you know?
Yeah.
Where you're working towards, and from that one, this is the complete image of what you can do with that loop, and then you can arrange, you can peel it off and make a structure and think about energy transitions and build-ups and break things off and all that. So that's pretty much the way I work. Just go ham on that amazing thing.
Yeah, like the tip, like you say, the peak that you
the
go.
The peak, and from there you can make the structure and you know.
Yeah, thank you. Let's see. So if you, I feel that you explained a lot also about creating room, for example, creating room for sounds, and for example, if you have like a lot of low frequencies that you want some to have in the middle and some to have the top layer, I think that's also something really important when you're mixing your track, that you know like where everything lays, so you don't have a lot in one same section. But in regards to mixing, do you have any tips? So for example, you mentioned before that you mix as you go.
Yeah.
And then at the end you mix everything again, or how does that go for you?
Yeah, mix as I go, and during producing the whole track, and at the end, adjusting some things, you know. Like I said, I'm not a pro mixer or an audio engineer, and also the gear I work with. You know, most of the times I use headphones. If I play it over my monitors, then my monitors are okay, but the acoustics are, you know, the room that I sit in. It's not a professional studio, so it's not audio treated. So it's not the ideal situation for having a great mix.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think. Making room for everything you want to do along the way. That's important.
But how do you feel that you can create room, for example?
Things tend to get very muddy in the low end. So even though the dry kick would sound, you know, very boring, only the punch, if you combine it with your subs. From the bass synth, for instance, then it will be as full as it gets, you know, as it has to be, just make room. get all your equalizers together and paint it like Bob Ross, you know. A little tree here.
Paint a pretty picture. A little bit of this and a little bit of that.
Yeah. It's not a full painting full of nice, friendly little trees, but it's one is there, you know.
Yeah.
Just paint the picture. Yeah.
Yeah, that's always a nice way to put it. I think people are like this. So I think we've reached the end of this broadcast of Footprints right now. Thank you so much, Dagger DX, for your time, your sharing your experience, and for being here and teaching us a little bit about what you do. So you have a sample pack prepared for the audience, right?
Yeah, it's not online yet, but
it will be online
soon.
It will be online soon. So stay tuned for the sample pack. You can find it on the Operator website. This episode will be uploaded on the Operator YouTube channel, as well as the other episodes. You can view them back there, the one with Gamma Intel and with Alberta Balsam. I'd like to thank you all so much for tuning in tonight and being here with us. And we have a few other Footprints sessions for the rest of this year planned. So stay tuned, and we'll see you next time.